remember well, the late 60s and early 70s, watching the soldiers come back from Vietnam and being sped upon. The Rambo series talked about that and what he went through. I remember calling them baby killers. I remember them saying that they were trying to get to be put down for no matter what they had done. It was a terrible disservice. It was the only time in our American history where our returning soldiers, many if not most, were draftees that were sent to Vietnam, and a huge number of them were people of color. It broke my heart and breaks my heart now when I see pictures of that time period. And having studied history and have been a social studies teacher for 30 years, I really got to see that in a whole different way as I looked through it historically as well as the remembrances. Why do I say that? Well, today the news just came out. The third police officer who had responded to the insurrection on January 6th committed suicide. 3 police officers out of the 140, 150, 160 that were injured and one of already died directly because of it, and the 2 committed suicide, and while the 3rd did it. They're not saying it was directly because of this, but the pressures and everything went on there. And what I really is sad, it just came to me today, in talking to Kathy about this, is this really resembles what people said to those soldiers returning. And I'm talking about the Republican members, particularly in the House of Representatives, that, including our own Clyde, Representative Clyde in Georgia, who talked about those people looking like they were tourists. 140 plus officers were injured, from very minor wounds to very, very seriously wounds, and 1 dying. And yet, those representatives and probably senators refused to view their testimony, and in fact tried to minimize it by doing other tricks there. Law enforcement at any time is a tough job, and yes, there are bad apples. Well, there are bad apples in teaching, there were bad apples in doctors. I had a PA that was terrible. But the whole point of it is a tough job, and a job that you would think is going to be fairly normal, just generally protecting the Capitol. You wouldn't think that other Americans who bragged under the president, the former president, how pro-police they were, would have done the things to those police officers that they did. That one police officer said that he had never heard the N-word while he was in uniform, and yet it was a repetitive thing for him and other officers of color. It makes me angry to bring those memories back and be able to look at something in this time towards those police officers. The rudeness, the callousness of the MAGA Republicans, particularly in the House of Representatives, the Mo Brooks, the Cawleys, the Hawleys in the Senate, all those kinds of men, and they're almost all men, white, that have treated those men and women who saved their lives. Do people really think that they would have let the Republicans off the hook unless they were the really famous ones? I don't think so. It was a danger to every member of our Congress. And for this to happen, again, potentially, how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to deal with it when those people, those congressmen, those senators have minimized it? They should be ashamed of themselves. But they've sold their souls. They've sold their souls to Donald John Trump, the most corrupt president in our history. He makes Nixon look like a petty criminal. So be thinking about that. Be thinking about what they're doing in the States with the voting rights. All those things still have a certain amount of racism, sexism, and every terrible thing I can think of. The MAGA Republican Party has no right to exist and call themselves Republicans. They should just come out and say, we're the MAGA Party. And I imagine a lot of them, including the former president, would be happy with that. Just think about these things, because this is frustrating to me. It should be frustrating to all good, civic-minded, patriotic Americans, people who support or know police officers. A third suicide within 7 months of this insurrection. What does that tell us?